Us today for Fursuiting Beyond the Con. I'm Kijani, and this is Aphinity.
I'm Aphinity.
Hello. And we'll introduce ourselves if you guys don't know who we are. I've been fursuiting in public since about 2008, and since then I've been doing all sorts of events, charity events, community events, parades, you name it. About 2 years ago I founded a nonprofit organization based here in the Seattle area called Emerald City Critters, and we've done a lot more events through under that banner. So, and I also host a bowling meet here in Seattle called When Furball Strike. It's grown to be very large. So that's my experience.
I'm Aphinity. I don't do anything. I don't know how many years of experience. Truthfully, I actually haven't counted. It's sitting up there in the 7 to 8 years anyway. I'm a professional mascot in the sense that I have a piece of ID that says mascot performer on it, and I'm paid for it. So, but that said, I'm not the only one who does the character either way. I work for the Vancouver Aquarium as their mascot in parades and various other things. I'm also a 501st Legion member. I'm also, I help and am very happy to be very directly involved with the Helping Cause up in Vancouver, which was founded by a number of people, including Cody actually was one of the founders of that group. And I do lots of other stuff too. Some cons, like there's one called Rain Forest or something I'm involved with somehow. And Vancouver Halloween, yeah, that's me.
All right, so just as an intro here, I'm going to pose a question to all of you. Why do we fursuit, especially in a public environment? What's so great about putting on this big, heavy, sweaty costume? Yes.
Make people smile. I mean, when I lived in New York, I belonged to a similar group called High 4, and we would go to autism walks and things like that. And what really did it for me was just seeing an autistic child just be able to connect for just 1 second, where all the voices stop, and you just feel it. You feel it, and it's just a wonderful feeling, and you want to do more of it. And that's exactly why I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very rewarding if you're fortunate enough to get an experience like that one. It's very rewarding for not only the person you're performing for, but yourself as well. It just keeps you going. Anyone else?
I mean, it makes the adults happy too. Like to see, like sometimes we do walk around the Cape May City Beach in New Jersey, and we just see not only the little kids, happy, but just seeing the adults happy too. It just really puts a smile on everyone's face.
I have a story actually that's related to this subject. Guy I was working with over at the BC Children's Hospital, which is up in Vancouver, that's where I'm from. This guy gets into a corporate mascot, and he walks in with the bag, and you can tell he's green. You can always tell the green performers, right? And I said, so what are you doing this for? Or how'd you get roped into this? He goes, oh, I volunteered. I thought it might be fun. He says, I don't really know what to expect. And I said, okay, well, here's what you're going to expect. You're going to get kicked. You're going to get punched. You're going to get smacked around. You're going to get some kid, making faces at you. And it won't matter, because there's going to be that one kid you're going to get today, maybe two if you're lucky, that will give you those eyes and will show you why you're doing this. And he came back, no word of a lie, he came back after the event and he pulled me and he just said, you were so right. And he has been probably the best performer I've worked with in the last little while in the corporate circuit. So that's a good reason to do it.
Absolutely. So what are some differences between fursuiting at a convention like Rainforest and then out in public? Can anyone name some? There's a lot of differences, yeah.
Well, people at a convention kind of know what to expect. I mean, I would go fursuiting out in New York City, and believe me, fursuiting out in Times Square will certainly garner a lot of different looks. Fursuiting out in public, when you go out into the mundane community, they don't really know what to expect. They're like, wow, there's just a big 7-foot animal that just walked right past me on 2 legs. What is this all about? Or, what the heck, man, this isn't Halloween. Some of the things I've gotten like that. But it's just wonderful looks that I get, because most of the time I'll get smiles and people will have a positive experience. There will be those that, they kind of don't love it, but that's their choice. But mostly the experiences have been favorable for me when I've done it.
It's really cool to see the smiles on all those kids. But once in a while you have some adult asking, what is all this about? Who are you? Or why are you here? And I think the idea is that, like mascots, they're only in certain areas where they're supposed to be, like sporting events. why are they out on the street? So they're like asking all these questions. So it's like they've never heard of the furry fandom.
Branches well into our first topic, I'd say.
Yeah, it does, really. Well, okay, we're going to address that a little later, how to answer that question, why are you here?
Okay.
But, yeah, so basically, at a con, as he said, it's more or less expected to see fursuits. You know, basically, the entire population of the con that you're at is your spotter. In public, there's no such thing. It's much more wide open. Anything can happen, and there's that element of surprise. People don't expect you to be there, so it can be. Most of the time, it's really positive because you know, you're a bright, jumpy cartoon animal, right? But sometimes you know, there is that element of surprise. So you have to be prepared for that.
Has anyone actually gone suiting without a spotter before in public?
A couple people.
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
I know.
We don't recommend that.
Once.
You do it once. That's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I learned a valuable lesson.
One time I was at a huge event, I had to have 2 spotters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more crowded and just insane the event is, the more important it is to have spotters that know what they're doing, first of all, and can really help you avoid those pitfalls. So we're going to go and talk about handlers or spotters now. They're probably the most important piece of the puzzle when you're fursuiting in public, because they're really the performer's eyes and ears, as well as the spokespeople for your group. Because most fursuit performers don't speak in costume as this, you know, quote-unquote breaks character. So it's really the handler's job to field all those questions you're going to get from the public, like, you know, why are you guys here? And I don't know what answer you give, but a great one is something like we're freelance mascots, because everyone understands the concept of a mascot, right? You know, for a sports team or a company or whatever. And, you know, being freelance means like, oh yeah, we're not really on the job, we're just going out and bringing smiles and, you know, bringing joy to people, and that's a good answer.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
very similar to what
that's
we say.
Okay, excellent. So handlers have to watch out for pitfalls, potential dangers, even if it's something as simple as, you know, stepping off of a curb. You know, fursuiters have very limited vision. We're going to show that later as well. But you know, something simple like that can lead to an injury. So it's all the spotter's job to just be a second pair of eyes for that performer. And also for like, say you're walking out in public and there's a big group of preteen boys heading towards the performer. That's another one. You got to be very careful about that. And another one of their jobs is to keep a large group together. So say you have, you know, a bunch of suits, and it's very easy when you're in public to get split up. Like say 2 or 3 of them get caught up in a photo at the front, and then the other ones keep going. It's the handler's job to make sure that group stays together to prevent a chaotic situation later. So let's talk about the ratio. Now, we have a little bit of a different opinion on this as far as the optimal ratio of fursuiters to handlers. Now, I agree that it's not good to have like a whole bunch of handlers. Like anything more than 3 would be a little bit hectic. But I like to have a ratio of 2 to 1. Like say there's 4 suitors in your group, I like to have 2 handlers. I never have less than a 3 to 1 ratio.
So you said 4 suitors, 2 handlers?
Yeah, 2 to 1. Yeah.
Oh, that's opposite of what I thought you were saying. Okay. I thought you were saying 2 handlers for 1 suitor.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, okay, so we're on the same page then.
We
That's
are on
good.
the same page.
Okay, yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
I misread what you said here.
No, yeah, the other way.
There you go.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
Okay, yeah.
You get too many spotters and it just becomes like this bodyguard now posse with the band.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Yeah, you don't want to make the spotters the focus. Obviously, the suits are going to be the focus. You just need to have enough people there to, you know, just control everything. So
we've actually run entire panels on how to be a spotter.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job. I mean, despite the fact it might seem it. Just make sure, more than anything, if I may, Kijani, is the communication with your spotter and your handlers are probably the most important thing. They need to know exactly what you're thinking and what you're doing. And that's where we get into things like hand signals and various other things. If you don't have a proper communication with your handler, it's almost all nonverbal, of course, because most people, like myself, never speak in character. So if you have to stage whisper, that's one thing, but try to limit that and try to have communication worked out in advance. So.
Yeah, hand signals are great. You know, like hand across throat like this means I need a break, or, you know, pointing at your wrist is, you know, check the time. You know, yes.
We actually use American Sign Language.
Yeah. Oh,
So I need help later. Okay, things like that, so.
That's not always possible in every suit, though. That's the problem. So, but I know what you're saying. That's a good idea. Yeah.
4 fingers.
Yeah,
Sign language.
One of-
Most of them are good though with 4 fingers.
Yeah. The character I
Important ones, yeah.
the character I perform for the aquarium, for example, has no digits, so I can't do any sign language. I mean, it's basically thumbs and hands. That's it. So and I can't even reach above my shoulders because it's a shoulder mount. So you have to go like this. I mean, to reach my eyes, I have to do this, and it's the most awkward thing ever. If I do this, the head just goes. And it's just anyway. So you can't even do proper emotes. But anyways, I won't get into that. So.
Okay. The last thing I want to say about handlers is that if you guys are looking to get more involved in events as a group, it's a good idea to have one of your handlers be like a designated photo person or a video person, so you have that as your portfolio for later. That's really important. Something that's helped me a lot as well. Okay, so that's all for handlers. We have a lot of information to cover in a relatively short amount of time, so if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask them, and we'll have a Q&A at the end too, so we can answer any more questions. But right now, let's do some fursuit demonstrations. We have one fursuiter, yes, thank you.
Actually, we have
2. Oh, we have 2? Oh, okay. They took their heads off, so
they're just relaxing.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Okay, Wolfstang. So let's
stay in the front.
Yeah, let's stay in the front here. Okay, one of the major things you're going to encounter when fursuiting in public versus fursuiting at a con, not that there's no kids at cons, because there are, but you're going to mainly be fursuiting around kids and families and stuff, because that's the major draw to a character like this. So, Wolfstang,
I will assume the kid pose.
Oh, you will assume the kid pose. Okay. Okay. What's the most important thing you have to remember when you're interacting with a child in a big, scary con? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. That's what not to do. Right. Exactly. Good. Very nice. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, he's lowering himself down. He's very tall to begin with. So. So you want to lower yourself to the child's level, even kneeling down.
Yeah. Kneeling down.
Yeah, pretty better. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, so you're not this big scary thing. And also, a good idea is to let the child come to you if they're kind of timid or scared. You get that a lot, you know. Yeah. See, not all kids are going to react like that. You know, they're going to be. Some of them are going to be kind of.
That's something you'll gauge as a performer. I can tell you that there's different levels of kids. Because you're going to get every kind of kid. You're going to get the kid that will come up there and be all smiles and immediately want to hug you instantly. That one's pretty obvious. But you will also get that kid that's sitting there, like where you are, for example, sir, and sitting there and smiling and waving. And the minute you even take one step towards them, they just go, and then you stop, and then you just kind of make it look like you weren't actually planning that, and then you wave at them, and then they start smiling again, and everything's good. But don't even think about trying to force that issue. You will learn to read that.
Yeah, it's just something you learn with experience.
Yeah.
An Anthrocon, you know, big black wolf. And we were just walking out the door, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, these people were waiting for the ride, you know, the shuttle bus, and then the little kid says, "Big black wolf," and then just runs into the streets, like, oh my god.
Runs away or towards you?
No, he ran away.
Yeah.
No, I had a little bit of an interesting situation when I was doing a performance in New Jersey. Because I cannot see, you know, I mean, wearing a fursuit like Wolfstang out there, you cannot see, and I felt something tugging on my leg, and there was, I mean, I get, you know, letting the children come to you. Well, this child came to me, and he latched onto my leg, and I'm like, okay, you know, I don't really like to talk in suit either, and my handler had conveniently disappeared.
Yeah,
Let me ask you this, what would you do in that situation?
I know what I'd do.
I mean, I more or less got, you know, once I knew he was there, I got to his level, I made him feel comfortable. But he just latched onto my leg. It's like, ooh, a Ricario, I want to take this home with me.
There's one easy way to deal with that I've found. Yeah. And you did a great job acknowledging the child first off, because they'll usually look at you and then they like, you know, hug you and then look at you and then they'll want to do something more. If they just stay latched on you, because sometimes like, I've got you and I'm not going to let you go, one easy way to get around that is do something inviting, because they're already hugging you, okay? Number one, never reach out to a child that hasn't done that already. But if they're on your leg like this, go down like this and start hugging them. And then they, at one point they'll eventually stop not wanting to hug you and they want to do something else and they leave on their own.
Of course, keeping an eye on the parents, judging
Well,
their reactions too.
I mean, at that point the kid's already hugging you, so it's fair game for you to hug them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so let's talk about if the child is really scared and how to win them over. That's kind of important. A few different techniques that I've found, like say, okay, you're gonna be the kid.
I'll be the kid.
Okay, so if the kid is
Hi, big wolfy dude.
okay, and so pretend you're really. Oh, yeah, wait, yeah. Okay, so say the kid's really scared. A good way is to hide behind your handler, because if the character acts scared in return, then the kid's like, oh, why is this big thing scared of me? Why should I be scared of it? You know? So then they can gradually warm up to you. Another good way is to interact with the parent, because if the scared child sees you interacting with the mom or something, you know, and being all buddy, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, this thing is interacting with my mom, so it's got to be okay, right? You know, and I've seen that work a lot of times. Do you have any more tips?
Yeah, you were saying about the hiding. Anything that you can do that looks natural.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll actually make the motions like I'll hide behind it and go like this, and then hide behind again, and then kind of peek my head out, kind of behind the person. That's my favorite thing to do. It almost always works too, interestingly enough, but you have to avoid approaching the kid. Don't think you're going to win them right away, ever. It will never happen.
Yeah.
You have to just do the hide thing, focus on other people, go around, and then maybe wave at them every once in a while. They make a point of turning and waving at that person. And then, kind of go around, and if they look scared again, then do the hide and crouch down. If they get really upset, and you'll know it, if they get really upset, then crouch down in a ball and just like look really sad as you can. And that person, you have now made them sad and you're sad too. So, yeah.
Okay, let's never ever take the infant. You're gonna so many times where you want to take the parents want to take a photo and they're gonna hand you their baby. No matter how good your dexterity is, I don't imagine yours are very good in those spots. It might be, but yeah, well, it might be. But anyway, you just never know. Infants are not stationary objects and they do not bounce very well. So yeah, just never take a child.
Quite prices.
Yes, they do. Be ready for lots of photos when you're out in public. That's you're going to get stopped, especially if it's a busy area or a busy festival or whatever. You're going to get stopped for photos constantly. So what I like to do is I like to have a few certain standard poses that I like to do. My character is a lion, so I kind of do this thing. We'll say, what are some of your poses that you like to do for photos? Yeah, there you go.
Good, to the audience. There you go.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Yeah. You got the kind of standard, the standard ones like that. Yeah. I always like the standard mascot pose, the arms out.
Yeah, big arms out. Yeah, you want to make all your movements big, as big as you can.
Yeah, because you are a big character. Yeah. So make them big. But that's a performance thing. So.
Right. Okay, so.
I was going to say one of the poses, or one of the things that I like to do when you're posing for photos, because something that unfortunately is reality in this world, is you'll always get some adults that will want to try and accuse you of something or doing something to their kid. If, say, their kid falls over while you're taking a photo with them and it's no fault of yours, they might claim you pushed them or something. Something I always do, and it's never happened to me, thankfully. But anyways, something that you'll notice, this pose is not just because it looks cool. It's also that, look, my hands are not touching your child. So, just making a point of that.
That's a really good point, yeah, because if you're not careful and someone snaps a photo and your hand is not in a visible place, that can obviously be misconstrued. So
yeah,
really important. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, let's talk about props. Props are really nice. Props that match your character or the event. Some of you have probably seen me carrying this plush zebra leg around, and it's bigger in the bone. Fits my character being a lion, but I mean, you see it especially at this con because the theme swords and sorcery. You've seen a lot of medieval garb and swords and things like that. So props really help you be able, it's great for people that have trouble improvising, I guess, because it kind of gives them that thing. But the thing is, you have to carry it around. It can be a little bit of a drag. But
it's a connection that you won't get in other ways.
Right, exactly. Also, know your limits. Pace yourself during a longer session, especially if you haven't done this a lot. don't expect to go out and do a 2-hour session in public, because it's a lot more involved than fursuiting at a con and just walking around.
Where handlers come in.
Yeah.
Make sure they have watches.
Yeah.
You will lose track of time. You will. You will
Watches
forget.
and water.
Yeah, you will forget how long you've been out there, and you have your handler tell you specifically as you're going out. Okay, we're going out now. Call me. Let me know when it is 1:45 or something like that. And then that way you have a time record there keeping track, and you don't overdo yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so talking in suit, is it okay or not?
Of course, you passed to me on that one.
Well,
That's a complicated one. Who here talks in costume? A couple of you? Okay. So who would never talk in costume in public, however? Okay. So I'm glad to see a majority of the hands came up there. There's a number of people at this con, for example, that I've seen that will speak in costume because this is a social event. Whether you speak in costume or not is really your choice. It's your character. You can do what you wish, of course. The problem is when you go outside into the public, there's one thing, and we've already covered this. It seems like we're only talking about kids, but truthfully, when you're in public, it's like 9/10 kids that are going to be interacting with you, and that's just the way it works. So, depending on the venue. So, with that said, a kid's focus is one thing. What do you look like? And after they're past that, what are you doing that's cool? And the first thing they're going to see is they're trying to figure out what you are. And they don't know what you are. They know you're this kind of cool-looking blue wolf guy, and he looks kind of neat, and I think it's cool. The minute Wolfstang speaks, now you're no longer a wolf. Now you're a person in there? Oh, speak again, I want to hear you. I heard you talk, hey guys, I heard him talk, and then it just becomes, and I'm not kidding, I've seen it happen, where you can be the best performer going, and one of your character performers that's with you starts speaking, and now all they care about is hearing what all the other characters sound like when they speak.
yeah.
And it becomes now the focus. Now the focus is now it's not the performance, now it's the fact that you're a person in a costume and they want to prove it. So that's one of the biggest reasons not to speak in costume, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I deferred it to you, because I had the exact same experience. We were at some charity function, and one of the characters started speaking, and for the rest of the afternoon, the kids were like, "I heard you talk, speak, say something," and it's like, that's
Consistent.
Yeah.
Consistent.
yeah.
So just don't do it. Just don't speak.
Yeah,
It's not worth it.
Yeah, there are exceptions if you have a really good movable jaw and you can change your voice to match your character. I would never speak in character using my human voice, right? But I've seen some really good voice actors and performers that can change their voice to match their character, and that's if you can make it believable, that's an exception.
Hi kids, I love you.
Exactly. That might not be the best voice around kids, but that's a good example.
You're attracted.
Yeah. That would work. Yeah.
Actually, you know who does that is Frisco. He has a Chimera, I think it's Chimera, and it's creepy as heck. And it's funny, because I was in Eurofurence, and he was wearing this in public while we're going around as Eurofurence does around the city, and he's creeping in this thing that's got glowing red eyes, and he does the creep really well. And he'll actually go, and the kid's like, "I'm not scared of you." He's like, "Oh yeah, how about now?" And like, the kids are like, "Ah!" And they love it. They think it's great. So it's, it's just great. Anyway.
All right, so that's all for the first. Let's thank Wolfstang for a great job. Okay, let's talk about choosing a venue now. Now that you've got your spotters taken care of and your crew and you're all good to go, where should you go out in public to do this? For starters, a great place to start would be like a public park, because it's obviously public.
Yeah, it's public land.
Yeah, public land.
It's free use.
Yeah, free use. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going
yeah.
for. Yeah, it's free use. They can't kick you out like they can on private property. Or just a stroll downtown. A lot of people. I don't know if you've done any guerrilla fursuiting.
Oh, yeah.
I started out doing that first.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of you remember the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Well, that was a huge and ridiculously busy venue, and so myself and a few other people decided, let's run around in costume. Why not? So we got custom jerseys made with Canadian maple leafs on it. We had our name of our character here, and we all went out as a big group in the middle of say Wednesday afternoon, and we just ran around. And we had handlers, one for every person, just to make sure that we were covered. Because man, there was a lot of people, but holy crap, the reactions! It was amazing. Honestly, we had more than a couple people swear up and down, "How can you be doing this for free? You guys are amazing. Why are you doing this for free? What's wrong with you? Why are you not getting paid for this?" Da 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 da. Anyway, so
Yeah,
it was a great experience.
Yeah, if you're fortunate enough to have such a big event come to your area, yeah, definitely take advantage of it. Yes.
Did you have to get like special permissions because since it is a big event, you know, after 9/11 and all that stuff?
We're going to cover that. In that case, no.
Yeah.
In that case, we didn't. It's a public space, and we did check to see if it was going to be a problem wearing a mask in that particular. But it is. We're talking downtown Vancouver, so you can't really enforce a no mask policy in an entire city. But you know, we still wanted to be sure, and they were fine with it. We even talked to some police on the way, and they thought it was great what we were doing. So.
Good. Okay, let's talk about public space versus private property. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen videos of people fursuiting inside a store or a mall, such as a Walmart, some stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, almost all malls, indoor or outdoor malls, to have a no mask policy. So that means basically you cannot have your face covered at all, because that's obviously a big liability for a number of reasons. So you got to be really careful. If you want to do something like that, it's by all means possible. You just have to contact the security or whoever is in charge of that at the mall and make sure you have express written consent to do that, because we had a situation where we thought the person in charge of the meet had consent to do it, but they actually didn't have the right paperwork or didn't or talked to the wrong person. I can't remember what the situation was, but we still were turned away when we got there. So,
yeah. And expect not everyone on staff to know about this permission either. So make sure you carry that written permission with you, because otherwise they will have no idea. They'll try to kick you out. It's happened more than a couple times to me.
Yeah. And so more venues. Bowling or mini golf is great. There's bowling meets all over. Just be sure to ask first. Make sure you're very clear when you approach the manager of the facility that you're trying to get into. Just be very clear about what you're trying to do. We're going to bring a bunch of mascot style characters with the full suits on, and just tell them what's going on. Most of them will think it's great, and they'll want to have you there. And once they see what you guys are all about, they'll likely want to have you back, because it's obviously business for them. If you're going to do something like a bowling meet, make sure you have an area, a party room or whatever. They might charge you for it, but that's part of the deal. Just have an area where you can meet up and use as a headless changing area. That's really important, because you guys don't want to be changing in the parking lot or in the bathrooms. That's even worse. So.
Which I've done.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do it.
We all have.
Sometimes you have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you lose your shame quite quickly.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, whatever. I'm in my underwear in a parking lot. Who cares?
Yeah. Okay, so in your hometown, organized events. Nearly all cities or towns have festivals, especially during the summertime. It's a great way to get involved locally. Most of those festivals have parades of some sort. Just be sure to register for the parade in advance. Yeah, parades are great for fursuits.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of
hot, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's nothing like having just rows of people cheering you on and getting high fives and stuff. It's really a nice rush for the performer.
Actually, I'm going to cover parades real quick.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
If you ever find yourself in an opportunity to jump into a parade, number one, by all means do it, but be ready. Like, drink as much water as you can physically stand to do, because you will be in costume a lot longer than you expect. Because keep in mind, when the parade starts is not when you start. Because if you were, say, midway through a parade and the parade is about a 2-hour duration, you're waiting an hour past the start. And you might be sooner, you might be later, you don't know. So you're sitting in costume for probably 45 minutes to an hour without doing anything. And all of the public that are walking by wanting to interact with you kind of sort of halfway. So you can't, you're on the whole time, and then you have to run through a parade. And believe me, it's a marathon. You're back over here, high five, back over here, high five, catching up with your float, going over here. You're running constantly.
Yeah, check the link too. Make sure it's
exactly.
It'd be good to exercise before that too, get your stamina up.
Do not, in my opinion, do not fursuit in a pride parade. And I'm telling you that not for any other reason but the fact that pride parades are freaking long. Like, really long. The one in Vancouver is like 2.5 hours from start to finish. It's ridiculous. I've done it more than once, and I've almost gotten heat stroke each time. Don't do it. Not worth it.
Yeah, definitely make sure you have some experience before you do a parade.
So you're going to do it a third time?
Third time's the charm?
I do it not in costume anymore.
Yeah, I've done short parades and I've done really long parades. Like the one our group did this summer was a very short parade. It was like, what, half a mile?
About half, yeah.
And the queue line was very short. So that's not so bad. But then where I live in Bothell, which is kind of close to here, and they have a summer parade on the 4th of July weekend. And that parade is extremely long. It's like...
It's almost 2 miles.
Yeah, it's at least 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
And the queue area takes forever. So we were, the last year we did it, it was 92 degrees. And we, I don't know how we did that. It was just incredibly hot and it was,
Just be ready for it.
It's, yeah, it's just be ready.
But it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah, so if you can handle
But-
that, it's worth it.
I think I've done about 5-6 parades this year, so I,
Oh, nice.
Grab your
lots,
Fitbit, train up.
lots of experience, yeah.
Okay, so charity events and fundraisers, those happen almost every weekend, especially if you live in a large metro area like Seattle or the Bay Area. The most appealing for that would be a charity that benefits kids or animals, because that makes the most sense, you know, being a costumed animal performer. Do some research too. Look up some fundraisers or events for an organization that you feel strongly about if you really want to get involved in one. Like say, you know, you're a loved one or someone you know is, you know, suffering from cancer or some specific disease, you know, sometimes they have walks or charity events that you can help raise money for, and that would be a really good cause. Absolutely, yeah. So once you find an event that you want to do, what's the next step? You got to contact those organizers and get your foot in the door. That's for most of us. That's the most difficult part, is to get in. Because believe me, you're going to get turned down for whatever reason, and it's going to happen. The best thing is to build a portfolio of your group performing in public, preferably photos. Yeah, photos is the most important. If you have video, that's great also, but at least photos. And make sure the photos show your characters interacting with people, preferably kids, because that's what you're going to be doing, as you said, 90% of the time. Basically, by showing that, you're just displaying, you know, you're showing the organizer what your group is about and what that you can bring to that event.
Yep.
That's the most important thing.
I think my biggest concern with that, with a lot of people, is I've seen people that will do this and they'll say, oh, I've got lots of photos on my Flickr account. And you go on that Flickr account and it will be not just photos of that, but photos of everything else that they're interested in, which may or may not apply or may not be appropriate. Like seeing, for example, a connection with this fandom, unfortunately, isn't always a positive. And I know we're going to cover
Yeah, that was actually the next topic.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah, so wading into it. So
Right.
there you go.
No, that's a really good point. Make sure if you have that portfolio, make sure it's only for your group, because as you said, they don't want to be, you know, some people might be more investigative and will say, oh, let's see some more things. So if you have anything linked to those, it can be a problem.
Yeah, and the biggest reason, and we're not going to cover why furry is misinterpreted in the media, certainly that's been covered 100 times before, but ultimately, remember that unfortunately, we don't have the best public image for everybody. So for that reason, as a fandom, it's best to separate yourself from this fandom if you're going to be a performer. You can still be a performer in both, but don't link the two. Because it's like, here's an interest I do on the weekends, but you don't need to know about that. I'm a character performer. Here's my costume. Here's a shot that looks like a baseball card. Here's a video of me interacting in this parade. Here's a video in this blah, blah, blah. That's who I'm going to be to you. Don't like, but I'm also a skunk that goes and rave dances on Sundays. Like, no.
Right.
Not appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's our policy with Emerald City Critters. We have to separate ourselves from the furry fandom. I mean, it is unfortunate that the negative connotations still exist.
It's still worth it to have a public report.
Yeah, it is. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Artists will do that too, by the way. I
Yeah.
should point that out. This is not that uncommon. Artists will have a furry side that is usually a different name than theirs, and then they'll have their professional side. And they usually almost never overlap the two. So, yes.
When doing that, do you use a separate name for that persona that's public for those performances?
That's a great question.
How about you?
That's a great question. What's your opinion on that?
For your, are you talking about the same character?
Yeah, if you're like
Oh,
same
okay.
suit, do you
Oh,
use a
it's
separate name so
I
that they don't
don't.
risk stumbling?
Yeah, because that would be really confusing if I had to change the name of my character for two things. I don't bother doing that.
I use different accessories. Most of you know my character Ayoko, or at least a lot of people seem to. Ayoko doesn't wear a collar when he's not here. If I'm in a fandom event, he wears a collar. Otherwise, he doesn't. But that's also because we have jerseys that have our name on them, so I don't need a collar that has my name on it. But Ayoko always wears a collar when he's at a fandom event. As in my opinion, that is a decent separation because everyone is always doing headshots. You're always going to see a collar, and if you don't see a collar, he looks a little different, little bit, kind of. Still the same name, but Ayoko is also a name of a city in Vancouver, or an area in Vancouver, so it's a really common one, and you can't easily search it. Another reason I picked that name. I'm not kidding, honestly. Picking it easily, like naming your character Toast, or whatever, Silver. My goodness, how many silvers are
Silver
there?
or cyber.
Yeah, or cyber, anything like that. You're never going to get a result properly.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
Now you can get positive reactions too, and this was very surprising. We were doing that parade in Bothell, and it was probably our second or third year doing it, and we're just going down, and all of a sudden we hear this yell from someone in the audience, "It's the furries! We love you guys!"
Yeah.
I was like, wow, yeah, has that ever happened to you?
We will occasionally have people call us furries, yeah.
Oh, you will?
And it's usually in a positive, not always.
Yeah,
We've had some
yeah.
negative too.
Right, yeah, I've very rarely had it ever in a negative tone. It's always positive, like, you know.
We actually had to pull our YouTube channel because unfortunately, for whatever reason, YouTube was so good at linking together, even though the account had nothing to do with anything, it was uploaded differently. They linked all of our, similar results at the end of our videos to all of the fursuit videos with us in them. And we're like, what the heck is this? Like, it was a charity event on a different account with nothing to do with us, not even our character names in the description, yet somehow linked to like rainforest footage and Vancouver footage. It's like, what? What's going on here? So anyway.
People start searching it that way, it becomes associated, it just gets worse.
It gets, yeah, and that's the problem. Is like, well, you know what? Okay, I guess we got to pull it. So anyway.
So in case they do know of the furry fandom and they ask questions about that, the most important thing, if you're approached about that, don't focus on what you're not. Don't be like, oh, we're not like those furries or whatever. Focus on what you do, the positive part. So we like to entertain others. We like to put smiles on people's faces. Just don't focus on what you're not. Yes?
I guess that pretty much ties in with what I wanted to ask. How do you deal with the media at an event like that? And say like King 5 TV comes up to you, you're at an event, and they start asking questions. What is the general response that you would?
Yeah, okay. As someone who's been media liaison for conventions and everything for many years, I've been on camera so many times I can't even say it anymore. I can tell you one thing, always focus on what the media is aiming for. Always know the intention of the media. If it's King 5, they're not there to make you look like a freak, because King 5 is a local news station covering an event. So they're there to figure out what this event is about and link and connect people to it. So ultimately, talking to local media is a totally different story than, say, if Fox News came up to you. Well, Fox News is a bad example.
Comedy Central or something.
Yeah, whatever, Comedy Central or something like that. But if you get a reputable source like Reuters or something like that, which, by the way, that happened in Germany. I'm just sitting there in suit and Reuters walked up to me with a camera and said, "Can we interview you?" And I said, okay, I don't speak German. They're like, "That's fine." I'm like, okay. So you have to kind of off the cuff see what's going on, right? And anyway, so that would be my answer. And they're not there for you. They're there for the event, right? If they're there for you, then you're doing this for the wrong reason. I don't know. First of all, how do they find out? And anyway, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about. Right. Okay. So once you get your foot in the door, how do you explain what you want to do? Because you have to be very clear about it. First of all, use easy to understand terms like mascot character we talked about before, life-size cartoon animals, just anything with a positive spin on it. And state that you'll be performing for fun and do not seek compensation. Now, maybe down the line they might offer that to you, but it's really important when you first try to get your foot in the door of an event that it's very clear that you're going to be there for fun and for the enjoyment of everyone else. And they can compensate you in other ways, like giving you a headless lounge or some water, things like that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay, that works too.
They're very good to you.
Yeah.
Because I got a birthday party after like October 2nd or something. Just walking at a birthday party.
There you go. Almost all the good.
I said, "Nah, I don't want any money. Just give me cake."
Almost all of the good events will have like food and things like that, and so I mean I almost never have to buy lunch when I'm usually it's really bad hot dogs and chips or something, but
that's something.
It's something, yeah, and they're happy to give it to you.
Yeah, and the most important thing is you got to state how the festival will benefit from you being there, because the most important thing is when you're performing for a festival, you're not there for yourself. You're there to help the organization, the charity, whatever you're performing for. So leave it open-ended, just say, we're going to bring a bunch of mascot characters. What would you like us to do? Stand at a photo booth and help raise money, I mean, if a lot of times they'll say, oh, just show up and do whatever you want. And if that's the case, that's great. You have a lot of free reign. But you just always want to make sure that you are there for them and, whatever they want you to do.
Yeah, and on that subject, this is something that comes up a lot. Like our group, for example, Helping Cause, has been over 10 years. We're quite a long-standing group. And people have said, well, we should sell t-shirts of our characters, or this or that or whatever, maybe trading cards. Because you'll see mascots give out trading cards quite often, that kind of thing. They'll sign them and stuff like that. The problem with that is now you're taking the focus away from the very reason you're there. Now it's like, I'm bringing attention and making sales at a charity event. That makes no sense at all. So like, as much fun as it might seem to like hand out character cards and everything else, it's not about you. It really is about the event you're going to. If you want to do character cards and stuff like that, go to a public park and just be a mascot in the park. That's cool. But in an event, focus on that event. Do not focus on you, because you're not the focus. You're bringing attention to them, not the other way around.
If you have the opportunity, try going to the event, just scouting, just observing and participating as just a regular person.
Yeah.
Because you much identify ideas of ways that having a costume character there can make it better.
Yeah.
That's a way
Knowing
gotchas.
knowing the event. Yeah, like you said, knowing the event.
Yeah, we're actually gonna, that's the next topic we're gonna talk about, is scouting the venue in advance. Changing space. So just on the topic of contacting organizers, make sure that they have some setup for you to change, preferably not restrooms or a parking lot.
They will all assume restrooms are okay.
Yes, they will. Yes,
all the
at
time.
first.
They will assume, oh, well, there's a restroom right beside. No, I would much rather if you had a green room or something like that.
Yeah, this is especially important if you have a large group of suitors. Because think about it, if you have 10 suitors showing up to an event and there's only one stall restroom to change in, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So.
And you can't change in a restroom, not using, not a stall anyway.
Not a stall, well, even
Yeah.
a handicap stall is very
Maybe,
difficult.
yeah, I've done that before. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So just make sure they have that set up for you. If they don't, there's limited other options like renting out a room in a library or office building. That can be very expensive as well. But worst case scenario, try to block off an area in a parking lot so people don't see you changing, obviously.
Absolutely. Worst case scenario, and I've done this a few times, have your handlers and everyone with you surround you as a group, like a group huddle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Usually with their backs to you, but either way. And just make it so that, very closely, and then at least it blocks the view from kids.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
really that's what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
One
Yeah.
suggestion, as an added convenience, whether you're, mascot yourself or just want to help get a good coverage space, $50 at Cabela's will give you a pop-up shower tent that you can literally just throw it, and it'll construct itself. And
Yep.
it's a great,
Yeah, pop-up tents.
Yeah, those are good.
Pop-up tents are a good idea. Yeah, not a bad idea. We have our own Helping Paws. We have an 8x8
Canopy.
a canopy
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with walls. The walls
Yeah,
are
those
the
are great.
important part.
Yeah.
Just make sure there's lots of ventilation on the top. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
$50 at Cabela's, so easy.
Yeah.
And the last thing I can say about that is always act courteous and professional. Just pretend like it's kind of like a job, although it's not, obviously. Just be as professional as you can. You will get turned down. It's going to happen. When I first started Emerald City Critters, I got turned down 3 or 4 times before I first got into our our big main event that we do. We do the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure in Seattle. We've been doing that for 2 years. And before I got into that, I got turned down about 3 or 4 times. So it's going to happen for whatever reason. Keep trying and don't give up. You'll get it.
There's another side to that too. Remember that these venues have pre-existing agreements and relationships with corporations and companies, and some of these companies may have an exclusive agreement to be the only mascot there, or maybe the primary mascot. So I've seen that before where, for example, Finn from the Canucks, who's obviously a professional mascot, will be the focus of the entire event, but they kind of have us to the side. And they didn't really say anything, but you start to notice that all of the events are geared towards Finn and him winning everything and him doing, because the kids love Finn. Okay, that's cool. What are we here for? Well, we're basically supporting Finn, and we learned that over the years. At first, it's kind of like, well, what the hell is he? I'm a better performer than him anyway. And it's like, yeah, but that isn't what this is about. Remember the focus, right? And so that also is another reason you might get turned down. It might not be because they don't like you. It might be because, well, we can't have you.
Okay, so prepping for performance, as Axel said, scout the venue in advance if you can. If it's a one-day event, obviously you can't do that. Well, you can scout it without everything there. And that's a good thing to do, so you know your pitfalls, know your exits. That's really important.
Know your exits.
Yeah.
Know your exits.
You can talk about that.
Yeah, exits are probably the most significant thing about any venue. You're always going to be, like, say you're in a park, you should always be aware of how you can get away from that group of kids or that group of teenagers right there with a bunch of baseball bats or whatever. I mean, you need to know that, okay, if I go over there, I can get to a building. If I go over there, I can get behind some trees. I can get away from a group. I'm not saying like you need to escape, but I am saying that there are going to be opportunities where maybe you overheat yourself and you don't realize how hot you are until you're in the middle of it, and then you suddenly you see your heart beats in your eyes, and you're like, oh, I'm overheating, okay. And then you have to kind of take it calm for a minute. Sometimes a nice leisurely scroll back to your thing will not be possible because you don't know where you can go. Anyway, most important.
Yeah,
exits.
absolutely. Yeah, formulate a plan. Whenever we do like a festival and we have to make the rounds, just kind of make a route in advance and follow it as closely as possible. The thing you don't want is you don't want the fursuiters just kind of wandering around and it's just really chaotic and then you get lost. So
that can be fun though. I
it
will
can
say,
be fun, yeah.
Sometimes that's okay, but it depends on the venue. Again, scout it, see what it's like. Sometimes you can get away with it. You never know.
And just make sure the handlers know their roles and what to do in the case of an emergency. Because I've been fortunate enough that we haven't really had any emergency situations pop up in any of the events we've done. But I don't know if you have.
Not anything serious.
Not anything serious.
Yeah, overheating. That's about it.
Yeah.
We're pretty careful.
Okay, so this last section is for the ambitious. If you want to kind of do this more often than just once or twice a year, like we do, I think the best thing to do is to create an official group name, whether it's Helping Paws, Emerald City Critters, High 4, or whatever. It helps create a sense of solidarity in the group, and the most important thing is it makes it more reputable. It's easier to introduce yourself and to identify yourself. It's not like we're a bunch of friends looking, freelance mascot characters looking to have fun. It's different when you say we are Helping Paws, we are Emerald City Critters. And I'm glad you brought that out. It's really important to have business cards to hand out. If you want to, you can trademark the name and register as a nonprofit. I did that in the state of Washington. It's actually fairly reasonable to register as a nonprofit. The fees vary from state to state. You just got to fill out some paperwork and stuff. It's not that bad, but the thing you probably don't want to do is be a 501c3 because that's extremely expensive and
hard to do.
It's very hard to do. Yeah.
Take a board of directors from Rainforest. It's not easy.
Yeah.
We're still not, and we've been trying for 5 years. Trust us, it's not easy. Don't do it.
Yeah,
not worth it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to have a lot of money flowing through to make it financially feasible, and just think about it. An organization like mine at least survives only on donations of the groups that we perform for, and not all of them donate. Sometimes we do an all-day event and we don't get anything. So so it's not worth it.
And we actually as Helping Paws, we actually don't take donations at all.
Oh,
we
yeah,
we actually have a policy. Same with the 501st Legion. We cannot.
Right,
we actually cannot. 501st Legion, for example, which is a Star Wars costuming group, is not allowed to take donations. It's actually part of our agreement with Lucasfilm.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, that's
so that's
Yeah, because you're performing as copyright characters.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
We can't even handle money for the charities that we're actually helping. So anyways.
So how do you raise money for your Helping Paws?
We always have for Helping Paws.
Yeah.
It's all out of pocket.
Oh,
100%. Everything we do is out of pocket. The shirts we wear, the tent we have, everything.
Okay, so a couple minor details for that. Insurance, I've only been required to have it for one event I've ever done. I've done probably 30 of them. Unless your group performs a lot, like once a month or more, I don't think it's worth it to have insurance because there's very little chance for that your group will do anything seriously harmful. I think insurance is more for the more high risk things, like acrobats and stuff like that. Have you ever had insurance?
We've never had to have insurance because the venue always had it. We have had to have things like criminal background checks
Yes.
for all of our performers.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, if you do want insurance and something as a performer, if this is something you want to do regularly, like you want to run around in a park and be a complete, spectacular, fantastic fool, which is a lot of fun, get insurance for yourself.
Yeah, for yourself,
especially if you're down here. See, I'm happy to be in a country that isn't too crazy as much as the U.S. kind of tends to be occasionally. I have friends from down here that come to Vancouver to perform because of that reason. But anyway, regardless of that, if you can get something called clown insurance, it's not super expensive. I think it's about $150 a year. Clown, it's relevant because I mean, clown performer, they call it clown insurance. So do a Google for clown insurance. You'll find. I just was looking. I did this before to give some examples, but like worldclown.com is one of them, and there's like, Anyway, so it's relatively inexpensive and does cover you if you accidentally kicked a child into a garbage can. I may have done that once.
It's an experience, right? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Once you create your group, you want to increase the presence, whether it's through social media or whatever. Business cards are excellent to hand out at your events, so people know who you are and have all the information there should they want to contact you. Because a lot of this is about networking. Once you get into an event and they see how awesome you are, you're going to not only be invited back, but say, like here's an example from my experience. The event that we've been doing the most years is the city of Issaquah, which is a little bit east of here, about 20 minutes east of here. They have a festival called Salmon Days. It's actually coming up next weekend for us here. And the person that runs Salmon Days, the promotional, like the mascot, does all the mascots and stuff like that for the event, she runs all of the city of Issaquah's events. So once we established ourselves as Salmon Days regular entertainment, we got invites to do the Issaquah parade, all sorts of stuff during the summer. So once that's another reason why it's really important to make a good first impression. You know, if it's your first time performing for a group, make sure you just do the most bang up job you can, because it's going to lead to bigger and better things for you.
And you mentioned like creating a presence. One of the things you can do, and I mentioned this for we only did it twice, but we actually went to the point of actually making custom jerseys for ourselves and our handlers to look like we were part of an official group. It costs us like 20 bucks each. Like it's not a dramatic amount of money. And if you get something like this on every one of your characters, believe me, it makes a huge impact in people's perception. I mean, you can be a furry going into public to perform for people, but now you are
part of the group.
You're part of the group. You're part of an established organization, and people will see it as that. I mean, a bunch of people wearing furry t-shirts running around in a park is not going to have the same impact as having this with a bunch of shirts that look formal.
Right.
When we go out to dinner or lunch or whatever after our event, I mean, we look like we're part of like a bowling club or something like that. They often say that kind of thing. But it's great, and it works well.
Yeah. And another way to identify, if you don't have the jerseys, is to have badges with your logo on it. Logo is important. You should design a logo for your group too. These are kind of dual-sided. There's one that says official critter character, if you're obviously a performer or fursuiter. And the other side has handlers, so the handlers also have identification that they're with the group as well. And then some groups have, the handlers wear jerseys too, right? Yeah,
we do anyway.
Yeah, you do anyway, yeah.
It just creates a uniform look, especially if you look like your character. Now, like at least the color, like all our jerseys match our handlers' shirts and everything else, and then of course we've got the same paw print logo on all of everything. So it's very obvious if you're looking for someone related, you can see, oh, that's with these guys.
Yeah. Yep. The only other thing I have to add is make a website. That's really important if you're going to look to do this not professionally, but as an official group. Web hosting is really cheap. Mine started out at like $2 a month or something. It's very easy to make a good-looking website. I don't know if you guys are on Facebook or Twitter.
Not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter.
I can't remember if we're on Facebook or not. It's been a while since I've looked.
Yeah. It's social media. Is the wave of the future as far as communicating with people. Unfortunately, the thing is, it's a major time commitment to continuously. The worst thing you can do is make a Facebook for your organization and never post anything there.
Which is why I'm guilty to say I don't know if we have one.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're going to do that, that's all well and good. Just make sure you update it and keep on continuously posting stuff. Yeah.
As a separate thing, instead of getting your own web hosting, I've seen a lot more people using Tumblr and creating kind of a custom page, and then just going to GoDaddy and buying a website domain and you're paying $20 a year.
So you're suggesting using Tumblr, an existing site, and then redirecting to it? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah,
that's
you
not a
just
bad
tell
option.
Okay, yeah,
Tumblr,
yeah.
like, this is my domain, and you sign in with it, and it
Yeah.
redirects it becomes its own site.
It's a good option to use an existing.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, actually, I know people that do that for Facebook. They'll actually have a web domain that redirects to a Facebook page, which is great. You just don't get very good search results if you do that. So if you're looking to get in Google, that's not a good way to do it. But
Correct.
yeah. But what were you gonna say?
No, that's it. Okay. So we have 2 minutes left. Any last questions for we wrap up here? Anyone want to share? Yeah.
I've had a head less than 12 hours. Any tips for someone really, really green to this?
Green in performance?
Yeah.
You want some performance tips?
Or just in general
Okay.
costuming, like.
Actually, we didn't cover this. I wanted to actually cover this when we were when Wolf, I forget his name.
Wolfstang,
Yeah, Wolfstang was here. Okay. First thing is know things that the public know already. Okay. Every kid since they're about 2.5 years old knows how to high five. It is the #1 thing to do with anyone in public. First thing you almost ever do is hold your hand out. Don't ever do this. Okay? Hold your hand out and make it very obvious you're waiting, and expect them not to know what you mean. So like smack your own hand and do that or something like that, and if they still don't get it, then high five someone next to them. And then like, no, here you, now your turn, and they'll be like, and you're like, right? Big motions, big, yay, everything's great, yes, awesome. And like body language is everything.
Yeah.
Because if you're sitting here like this, people don't want to interact with you.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately 9/10 of the mascot world does exactly what I just showed you. Don't be that guy.
And keep everything
Jump
moving.
around.
Yeah,
Always
even,
moving.
Even if you're standing still, like at a bus stop, always keep the arms moving, legs moving.
Yeah, looking around.
The worst thing you can do is be a static character. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and don't do this.
That's creepy even out of costume.
Right? It's the same thing if you're in costume. Keep in mind that your eyes are, well, depending on your character, my character is looking everywhere all the time, so I have to constantly be looking like this, like moving my head around so that, and I know the vision perception of my eyes, so I have to bring people away from it and into it and constantly interact with everyone as if they're all looking at me, even though I might be looking over here.
That's why he walks in circles.
So that's the thing. But
Yeah, one more question?
With something like this, because this has been a challenge that I have been actually, and I might ask you both later, how do you compensate to that? If I'm using both my claws to propel this, would you recommend maybe head gestures? I mean, I want to give that lively approach, but I've got this, as much as I'd like to do that.
so you'd like to okay, so, sorry.
I'd like to
No, go ahead.
integrate this
Right.
as a working prop to give my
Right.
character more
Okay,
vitality.
that's exactly what I was just about to say. So in terms of your situation with, needing to use a walker while you're in character, that will always be the focus of everyone. I hate to say it, they're always going to see you with a walker first and then a character second. So if there's any way you can make that part of your character, that's what I would suggest. Make it I don't know, like trick it up like a steampunk thing or something, and you're like a time traveling wolf or something. Like make it look like something that's part of what you're doing, and that will bring attention away from the fact that you're using that for support and the fact that now this is part of your character. That would be my suggestion. That's going to be challenging, certainly, but if you can find a way to make it work, and I've seen people do it. I mean, we have a one-legged character that's constantly going around all the different venues in Vancouver. She's awesome. She's always wearing like a Deadpool costume or something, and she'll have like her leg hanging off the edge, like a fake one, just sitting there like, and he goes, "Oh no, I took battle damage." It's great. So it can be done. You just have to be creative about it.
That can easily be accessorized, yeah.
Here's my Canadian coming about it. Anyway.
Awesome. I think we're just about done. One last question, anybody? No? Okay. Thanks so much for showing up. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your time.
Yep. Once again, I'm Aphinity. This is Kijani. If you want to look us up on FA or anything, we're around.
Yep. And if you're local and want an Emerald City Critters business card, I have a bunch here.
Yeah, and I have contact cards if you want to reach me, talk to me, or anything about this.